Hello, Spice family. I'm Stacey Spalding, instructor here at Spice Studio, and I teach the pelvic floor, core, and more class on Monday evenings and Tuesday mornings. And so pelvic floor health is a very special topic to me, very important topic that I love to share with our clients here. So today we've invited Jenna Holmes, pelvic floor physical therapist, here to give us some guidance and advice on how we can improve our pelvic floor health. So welcome, Jenna.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak with everyone. Like Stacey mentioned, I am a physical therapist. I have been practicing since 2008, and I opened Foundation Pelvic Therapy back in 2022. So we're just gonna kind of jump right into it. One of the big things from your perspective is just kind of, why does the pelvic floor matter? What is the pelvic floor? So if people don't know, the pelvic floor is kind of the group of muscles that provides support to the bowel, bladder, and reproductive organs in the pelvis. We tend to think of it as only mattering for women who are older in life or those who are immediately pregnant or postpartum, but honestly, our pelvic floor health pretty much impacts everything that we do. And I don't know if that's something that you see regularly in class. So in terms of recognizing when we have dysfunction, most people will recognize that if they are leaking from their bowels or bladder, or if they're having issues with controlling gas, that they may have some dysfunction in their pelvic floor. But sometimes there are things that get sort of overlooked in what could be considered dysfunction in the pelvic floor. One of the things that I go to pretty regularly with folks is a frequency of urination. So if you feel like you have to go to the bathroom more than every 2 to 3 hours throughout the day, or especially if you feel like that urge is there where you get the key in the door and you just have to get to the bathroom right now, that's usually an indicator that there's some dysfunction in this area. If you have difficulty initiating that flow of urine, that can be a sign of problems. Or issues around constipation. I think a lot of the time when we think of constipation, we think that it's all diet related, but there can be muscular issues or other issues in the body that can create that issue for us. If you're having pain during intercourse or difficulty with GYN exams or tampon insertion, all of those can also be an indicator that we may have some issues kind of happening in this region of the body. Or symptoms of pelvic pressure heaviness, especially if we've been exercising or walking, just doing kind of normal everyday tasks. We really shouldn't have the feeling that the bottom is going to fall out on us. And then if you think about folks who are having issues with low back pain, hip pain, tailbone pain, things that kind of typical therapy or exercise are not really able to address, there may be some underlying dysfunction in the pelvic floor that's contributing to those things. Stacey, one of the things that you wanted to talk about were sort of things in our everyday life that may be kind of impacting how our pelvic floor functions. And so from that standpoint, thinking about our posture and the way that we're moving. Yes, we both kind of sit up. If we are sort of sitting in positions where we are consistently tucked underneath with our tailbone, that can lead to some increase in tension in the muscles in the pelvic floor. And then even sitting almost too upright and overcorrect can play into some of the issues with gripping or holding in different places in our body, or just more tone and tension in the pelvic floor than what we may want. Standing is another really big thing. A lot of folks don't recognize when they're standing that they are holding, either they're squeezing their butt like they're clenching a quarter all day long, or they're tightening and pulling in their belly muscles, or they've got their inner thighs gripped close. We should be able to stand in a relatively kind of open and relaxed position and not feel like we have to have everything in our body sort of gripped down to hold us or protect us. Thinking about bathroom behaviors, I know you mentioned some of your reminders for folks in the bathroom here at Spice, but general rules for going to the bathroom. When you're going, sit all the way down and relax. You don't want to be the person that's kind of hovering over the commode. That way the pelvic floor isn't sure if it's fully relaxed or if it's working. It kind of creates some confusion for us. And we don't want to ignore the urge to go. So not sure how many kind of nurses and teachers are in the audience, but those tend to be my biggest offenders with, they will hold for hours.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've had that feeling of, I just can't go to the bathroom. But one of those things that we want to make sure that we're doing is that we're recognizing those signs that our body is giving to us, and we're responding to those kind of signs and things. When we go, the other thing that I see a lot is people who are sort of power peeing. When you sit down on the commode, you don't want to be pushing as hard as you can to get everything out as fast as possible. You really want to be nice and relaxed and just kind of let your body do what it needs to do. I think we rush through most of the things that we're doing during the day, and so that's a great opportunity to just be able to take that minute or so to ourselves and kind of calm and reset before we tackle our next big project.
Yeah, we were talking about it just before this video that I have, and many of you have seen that in the bathroom, our potty habits for pelvic floor health, with my head, picture of my head coming out of the toilet back there in the Spice Throne Zone. That's what we're referencing. So some of the stuff that she's mentioning today is a reminder for you on the wall in the bathroom here.
I love it, I love it. Other lifestyle factors. Hopefully this one isn't a problem for the folks here at Spice, but just limited movement throughout the day. These muscles are just like other muscles in our body where we want to be generally moving around. I'm not saying that you have to go and do Kegels. That is not the answer to everything pelvic floor related, but general activity, general movement to help with improving blood flow, coordination, muscle tone, those types of things. One of the other big things that we see a lot are issues with chronic stress. So most people at this stage have just very high levels of stress. And if we are not doing things like exercise, breath work, stretching, time outside, those things to try to help manage stress, it can end up really creating issues in our body. And we'll see a lot of things with pelvic pain and urinary or bowel dysfunction. This one might sound kind of silly, but for some people, tight clothing can actually be an issue. So if you think about the really tight sports bras, if you're wearing that all day long, or if you've got the high-waisted compression pants that you're keeping on constantly, they may feel good temporarily, but they're going to restrict how effectively you're able to breathe, and that can also play into with how we're managing pressure. So from a pelvic floor perspective, we just want to make sure that we're using those clothes when we need them and not living in them kind of day in and day out. Thinking about those things, so some simple, just very basic changes that you can make kind of to your day now is breath work. So when we think of breath work, we're encouraging both movement around the ribs and kind of through the abs and the pelvic floor, but we're also helping with that stress management and that down regulation of the nervous system, just to try to help us keep going with all of the tasks that we have to do throughout our day. Check-ins with posture. So this is a big thing that I kind of encourage with my patients. I do not expect you to have perfect posture day in and day out. And honestly, I don't believe that there is such a thing as perfect posture.
Right.
But it's one of those things, if you check in, if you notice pain, or if you notice that you're really gripping or holding somewhere, we just want to do something different. We want to try to let some of that stress go and give our body another opportunity for finding a new space. And then we mentioned this earlier, but mindful toileting. When you have to go to the bathroom, go in, sit down, take that break, allow your body to empty before you go on to tackle that next project for the day. And then big takeaways. If you have concerns about anything with your pelvic floor, I think Stacey's class is an absolutely wonderful option for folks here in the community. She does a great job of just bringing awareness to these muscles and bringing awareness to how you're moving your body. And then if you have issues that you feel like aren't being managed with class or with general movement, definitely think about seeking help from a physical therapist who specializes in pelvic floor dysfunction.
Awesome, Jenna. Thank you so much. Jenna is actually located right here in Leonardtown.
Yes.
We're very blessed to have Jenna as a resource in this community, and just to bring awareness to the pelvic floor dysfunction. It's often been up until recent years, right, when you say
Yes.
they've been kind of swept under the rug as
Yes.
like something that's normal,
Absolutely.
just deal with it, do a few Kegels, and there really isn't anything beyond that. So I just love that the community is opening up and information is more readily available, and resources are more readily available. So like Jenna said, come try out pelvic floor core and more class, where we focus on the pelvic floor health from a whole body perspective. And I'm more than happy to give you Jenna's contact information too. We'll probably plug it in the newsletter as well. So thank you so much, Jenna.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Bye,
Absolutely.
guys.
Bye-bye.